Hey, crew. So, chapter 8 of The Great Divorce is it's a pretty short chapter. The context of it is that C.S. Lewis has watched, I guess at this point, four ghosts go back. The big man, who wasn't willing to give up his rights, wasn't willing to ask for charity. And so he said, well, I'm going to go back to the place where I control my own destiny. I'm the master of my fate. We have the apple ghost, Ike, who tried to take an apple back to heaven. So he was using he was trying to use heaven for his own personal gain. We have the hard bitten ghost, who said that basically it's all a sham. He was so afraid of being proven wrong or being taken advantage of that he was unwilling to take the risk, and unwilling to consider that maybe it's not all a big conspiracy theory. And then we have the bishop, the seeker, the perverted seeker who was seeking, but he didn't actually want answers. And so we get another ghost. Our C.S. Lewis just watched The Hard-Bitten Ghost leave, and C.S. Lewis is beginning to wonder himself, well, can we really stay? Because he's a ghost too in this sense, in this story. And he's wondering himself, well, is it even really an option for us to stay? Because what the hard bitten ghost had said about, oh, you can't even do it, they're just messing with you, it's beginning to get into his head a little bit. And he's seen four ghosts go back, and so he's starting to wonder, like, well, I mean, I like this place, but I don't know if we can actually really stay here. And so he kind of is thinking to himself. He's walking around. He sees another ghost, again, like the apple ghost, kind of hiding and cowering down. And a solid person is going down to meet this ghost. They call her the frightened ghost. And they have this conversation. And there's this very strange scene with unicorns. And so I'll get to that right at the end. It comes out of nowhere. But I think I have an idea of what Lewis is getting at with this. So the frightened ghost, she's hiding. And I think one of the main characteristics that we're supposed to see with her is she's sort of a representation of those that feel embarrassed or shameful about some aspect of themselves. It could be physical. You're not good looking enough. You're not pretty enough. You're too heavy or too thin. Whatever it is, right? It could be some sort of physical thing where you don't feel attractive. You don't feel like you have confidence to go out and be seen. And her friend, the solid person, says, "Hey, come. I'll show you how to stay in the mountains." And the frightened ghost on page 60, she says, "Do you really suppose I'm going out there among those people like this?" She's like, "Look at me. I'm covered in rags." And it reminds me of that Bible verse where it says, don't build up your treasures where moth and rust destroy. So the clothes, the finery that she used to wear, the beautiful dresses, the outfits, they're ripped and they're torn, which fits her, ghostly appearance. And so she says, "Do you really think I'm going to go out there like this?" She's terrified of being seen. She's terrified of being judged. She greatly cares about her looks, her appearance, etc. But it even goes a little bit further. It even goes to the point where there's like this deep shame. There's a deep shame where she just doesn't. Maybe it's an inner thing that she does not want to be seen through. She doesn't want her inner parts to be seen, her heart, her soul. And she says to the solid person who's trying to draw her out and saying, "Hey, just come out. Trust me. It'll hurt for a little bit. Reality is harsh to the feet of shadows. But in time, you'll grow accustomed to it, and all of your shame will be wiped clean." But she says, it's so much worse than going out with nothing on would have been on earth to have everyone staring through me. So she's like, look at me. I'm this ghost. Everyone can see the worst parts of my heart. And if you think about that, I think a lot of us can resonate with that there is a part of us, whether it be our own sense of inadequacy, whether it be a sin pattern that we're trying to hide, whether it be that we just don't feel good enough for our friends, or we don't feel good enough for our family members, or we don't feel good enough for whatever it is. there's a part of us that we really don't want exposed, and we don't want to have God or other people see it. And that's her biggest fear, is that she will be exposed for who she truly is. And a really good quote's on page 61. I didn't put it on there, but make sure you look it up. It's the third to last paragraph. And the Spirit says, an hour hence, like in an hour, you will not care. A day hence, and you will laugh at it. Don't you remember on earth there were things too hot to touch with your finger, but you could drink them all right? Shame is like that. If you will accept it, if you will drink the cup to the bottom, you will find it very nourishing. But try to do anything else with it, and it scalds. And a really interesting quote from the Spirit about shame is something that if we say, you know what, I am broken, and I'm extremely flawed, and I'm imperfect, and I have some really dark, disgusting parts of my heart and my soul, but I'm going to be completely seen for who I am, right? And we expose ourselves and we open ourselves. That's the only way to grow from it, right? If you drink the cup to the bottom, you will find it very nourishing. But you try and ignore it, you try and hide it, you try and just suppress it in a way so that people don't see it. It burns you. And so that's what we see with the frightened ghost. There's this deep-seated shame, and the ghost is, or the solid person is telling her, hey, just come into the light, expose your shame for what it is. We all have it, and you will grow. You will become solid, and you will be welcomed into the high countries. So her overwhelming desire is to be left alone, and it's to hide or to avoid being seen for who she truly is, which is should be pertinent, I think, to a lot of you, is very pertinent to me at times. And the unicorns, very strange. Finally, the ghost, or the solid, I keep doing that. The solid person says, you know what? All right, this is my last resort. And he takes a horn and he blows it. And this herd of unicorns just comes pounding through the valley. And it's like, what just happened? But what I'm pretty sure is going on here is that he's using this incredibly, probably terrifying stampede to get her mind off of herself for just one moment. That's all she needs. She needs to get her mind off of herself for one moment. And we see that on page 62 where the Spirit says, friend, could you only for a moment fix your mind on something not yourself? Shame is an extremely selfish way of seeing yourself. It's a way that looks at yourself and says, well, I'm just going to keep looking at myself and seeing how bad I am instead of facing outward, instead of looking at other people and seeing the good in them. It's a really, in a strange way, it's a very self-centered, selfish way to live, even though it doesn't necessarily feel like that. And so the Spirit decides, all right, this is my last chance. I'm going to do this crazy thing where maybe for a split second, she'll be able to think about something else. Maybe she'll come out of hiding and realize what it's like to be seen. And maybe she'll stay, and we don't know, right? We don't know if she is unwilling to give up her shame, unwilling to give up being seen, or if on this last ditch effort by the Spirit, maybe she was flushed out of hiding for just long enough that she was like, you know what, I can be seen. And I do want to be seen for who I truly am. So I want to add to our themes here, and the ones that I italicized are the new ones. What we learn, I think, from the frightened ghost is that to stay in the high countries requires being seen at your worst. So with the big man, in order to stay, required giving up of his own rights. For the bishop, the seeker, to stay required accepting answers, to stop seeking. For the apple ghost, it required giving up his own personal gain or his hopes to make some money off of heaven. For the hard-bitten ghost, it required risking being perceived as a fool. Required a leap of faith for him that he was unwilling to take. And all four of them went back. For the frightened ghost and for all of us, to stay requires being seen at our worst. It requires an opening of our hearts and saying, God, here I am, and I'm really disgusting, and I'm really embarrassed. But you're stronger than that, and you're bigger than that. And so I think that's what we get with the frightened ghost. I also wanted to add another sort of a theme list. So maybe we can underline this and have this be like a separate section. But what is our job as believers? And there's two good quotes in this chapter. As solid people living in the morning twilight, one of our jobs is to meet the ghosts at the bus stop. Is to go down, meet the people that have not grown solid, to use Lewis's imagery, and to help them stay. That's really all we can do, right? We can't. There's a great quote on page 60 where fourth line down on page 60, make sure you underline this, where the solid person says, "You can lean on me all the way. I can't absolutely carry you, but you need to have almost no weight on your own feet, and it will hurt less every step." So our job is to go down, meet the ghost at the bus stop, and then let them lean on us as we navigate together into the high countries. You'll notice, though, he says, "I can't absolutely carry you." It's very similar to what we talked about with the hero's journey, is that it's an individual journey. It's a journey that no one can take for you. And like we talked about with Gandalf leaving Bilbo at the edge of the forest, that's a journey that Bilbo had to make himself. And this is a journey, a choice that we all have to make ourselves. But our job is to let those that are weaker than us lean on us as we travel together into the high countries. And even more than that, to go to the bus stop and pick them up. Not to wait until they wander around, but to go meet them and say, "Hey, I got something better than what you have right now," and to share that.